The following is a video presentation delivered on November 13, 2014 at the Meydenbauer Center in Bellevue, Washington State. This presentation was titled Embedded Mobile Device Security for Mobile NFC Payments, Smartphones, and Tablets, presented by Karl J. Weaver. This presentation is about 40 minutes long. The audio has been edited due to technical difficulties, and what you're watching is the full presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karl Weaver. I'm a wireless market mobile device specialist. I've spent the past 20 years from Washington State selling mobile technologies to the Chinese handset manufacturing ecosystem in Taiwan and China. I've been most recently working in China for Gemalto, 5 years in Beijing, China, to promote embedded mobile device security and mobile payments, also near-field communications design into all the handset manufacturers. When we discuss mobile device security, we need to focus on the mobile ecosystem and the complexity of our mobile ecosystem, because compromises in security occur along the way. In this slide, you can see that silicon chip manufacturers and operating system software vendors, they basically comprise and work with the mobile device manufacturers, who in turn work with the MNOs, who in turn supply to the various markets. We also have apps developers, and apps developers work with apps marketplace, and they also work with the mobile network operators, but they also directly provide solutions directly to the markets. Now, we also have value-added service providers, and they provide value-added software solutions directly to the mobile network operators, which in turn supply them into the market. So this is a complex ecosystem. As we discuss the proximity mobile payment situation in North America, you could say that there are three routes to the holy grail of contactless mobile NFC payments, and there are actually three different solutions in the market. Apple has been using embedded secure element, and actually the embedded secure element has been a failure for previous companies that have tried to use an embedded secure element. Nokia tried it and failed. Samsung tried it and failed. Google Wallet, Google tried it and failed, and even BlackBerry tried it with virtual target emulation, and they also failed. Apple will probably succeed because, in addition to using the embedded secure element for better security, and of course they can control their ecosystem, they also are using tokens. But in addition to that, they're using biometrics and something called Touch ID. So Apple has really come up with a very cool, interesting solution. Now, on the left side here, we have Google. Google has been working with a small Texas company where they bought the technology from SimplyTap called HCE, Host Card Emulation, where you're providing a software emulation and provisioning the secure element virtually in the cloud. This solution works great for banks and other different applications, and you basically bypass the use of the SIM card in order to provision your secure element in the cloud and then download it back into a mobile application on the handset. On the right side, we have Softcard. Softcard is the former ISIS, which was a joint venture between AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. They had to change name for sensitive reasons. Softcard is the new name. Softcard basically supplies the SWP, NFC, SWP meaning single wire protocol, NFC SIM card, along with a TSM, a Trusted Service Manager, which is a third-party mobile payment management organization that provides the ability to secure, to lock, and to manage a mobile payment platform for Softcard. So usually there are various TSMs around the world, and it's interesting but a complex and expensive solution. So when you look at proximity mobile payments, you have to look at the device and then the MNOs supplying the device, because it's very, very critical. For Apple, they control their destiny. The operators want to sell their smartphones, so the operators accept the fact that they have very little control over the embedded secure element because Apple owns that. On the left side, Google, basically they're not working with the operators at all. They're going to work more with the banks in order to avoid having to work directly with the MNOs, although they could work with MNOs. And I predict actually a hybrid smartphone solution providing the SIM card plus HCE. I predict that for the future. In addition, we have the ISIS or the Softcard SIM card solution, and this is actually the most secure means to make a mobile proximity payment in the market. Now, this has been around for quite some time. Next, let me talk about smart cards and secure elements. Smart cards can be made into credit cards, debit cards, loyalty cards, all kinds of cards. Now, the smart card has two different types. One is called Contact Smart Card, utilizing the ISO 7816 protocol, and that would be a typical chip and pin or chip and signature credit or debit card that you would swipe across a reader or a point of sale device or point of sale terminal at a retail store. Contactless, on the other hand, utilizes 13.56 megahertz frequency with an antenna and a chip inside the credit or debit card. But the same thing applies for the mobile payment smartphone, which has an antenna, which has an NFC chip, and it has a SIM card. The SIM card is very similar to the smart card within the credit and debit card, the chip and pin debit and credit card. Again, for that protocol, though, that is using the ISO for the smartphone, and for the contactless, it uses ISO 14443 standard. Now, secure elements, or what we call secure ICC cards, these smart cards, it's a secure element. It's a tamper-resistant smart card chip, and it facilitates the secure storage and transmission of payment and other sensitive credentials. Now, these secure elements are used in multiple application environments, and they are available in the microSD, in the regular UICC, or the regular USIM card. For 3G, we say SIM. For 2G we say SIM, 3G we say USIM, and for 4G it's actually UICC. And then of course the embedded. It's embedded into the NFC controller chip. The secure element can be embedded into the NFC controller chip, which is very common for NXP. Let me talk a little bit about the secure element, how it plays into the NFC phone architecture. So the typical components of a typical mobile NFC phone is going to have some kind of secure element and some kind of hardware that's going to either be a UICC, or a SIM card, a micro SD, or it's going to be embedded into an NFC controller chip. This is the normal way that a mobile payments smartphone architecture stores secure payment credentials. There's also an NFC controller. There's an NFC chip, a stack, and a contactless front end. And basically, you have a bunch of different vendors, NXP, Inside Secure, ST Micro. You also have a wallet. You need a mobile wallet. That's the UI application. That's the interface from the consumer to the device, and then to the point of sale solution. You need a way to intelligently make the payment and instructions on how to make that payment at the point of sale, or even other NFC applications. This NFC protocol, it's actually a historical series of different types of protocols all combined into one. Now, there's a smart OS actually that is required, and Android, iOS, BlackBerry, Windows, they all have the software stack for the NFC payments. There's also the secure element itself has an OS. So there's something called the secure domain, as I mentioned before. This is basically a security context within the secure element that includes a set of cryptographic communication and data management operations. And has a unique key material, and it's controlled by a set of assigned permissions. Applications within the secure element require cryptographic services, encryption and decryption, digital signaling. Global platform APIs are referenced as an associated secure domain. Secure domains are actually very, very important. That's how you store the provisioning of these credentials. Let's talk about what is meant by contactless mobile NFC. Well, that means on your phone, utilizing the contactless technology of near-field communications mobily on your phone. And this is a wireless, again, it's a wireless protocol for smartphones that enables contactless transactions and all kinds of other data exchanges. This technology, again, as I mentioned, has a bunch of different historical protocols all combined into the spec from the NFC forum. And the secure element helps to store the payment credentials. It uses a wallet. There are many types of wallets. There are almost hundreds of wallets now. The Google has a wallet. Starbucks has the most successful wallet in the market. Again, it's used for payment, ticketing, access, loyalty, couponing, so many different types of applications. And basically, the NFC forum specs 3 modes for near-field communications. Read-write mode, that's where you can read or even write to a tag or to a poster or to an advertisement. You can read it, or you can actually write a tag and write other types of information to something that can be reused. Peer-to-peer means you're taking 2 NFC devices and you're communicating between one or the other. In this case, it could be 2 smartphones transferring mostly photos and other data, but not video. It's just the protocol doesn't provide for such a raw data rate exchange. This is basically the ISO or the IEC 18092 standard. Also, it's important to know you could actually have a slave master situation where you'd have a smartphone. You could tap an ATM at a bank. You could outside. You can tap an ATM to either deposit or either deposit or basically take money out of the ATM. Card emulation mode is what's used for it emulates a smart card essentially. It is basically like a credit card. It emulates that on your smartphone in a contactless fashion. When the 2 contactless point of sale device and the handset get within 4 centimeters of each other using the 13.56 megahertz frequency in order to do that. Okay, we've gone through what smart cards are, what the secure element is, what near-field communications is, and we've explained how that all is connected to this mobile payment smartphone. Now let's change gears and talk about Google and this technology called HCE, host card emulation. Basically, it allows for any Android KitKat operating system application to emulate an NFC card and talk directly to the NFC reader, and it normally it's emulated by an NFC CLF, the SIM or the micro SD in the device, which we call the secure element. But HCE allows you to bypass the need for the hardware secure element, bypass the need for a SIM card, and basically it's supported by the NFC cards and protocols. So this technology basically takes and provisions your secure element virtually into the cloud. It performs secure EMV, which means EuroPay, Visa, MasterCard, mobile payments in the cloud using this host card emulation. It bypasses the need for a SIM card, basically. Up to this point, we haven't really touched on the whole importance of the Trusted Service Manager, this whole Service Provider Trusted Service Manager, or TSM, which is what it's commonly called. It is very, very important that the TSM provides a very important role for SIM-based mobile payment security, mobile handset management of mobile payment smartphones. And so it's really complex, though, and that's what has slowed the development of this technology in North America and other parts of the world. It's complex to implement this technology using the SIM card and the Trusted Service Manager, which is a third-party payment management organization. And it basically uses Global Platform Secure Channel Protocol, and it uses Secure Socket Layer, the SSL. It goes through the operator's MNO towers onto the consumer's device and then onto the point of sale device. That's on one side. On the other side, from the point of sale device, it takes that contactless security technology and EMV protocol and it sends it to an acquiring processor and then onto an issuing financial institute and then back up to the TSM. So as you can see, it's a very cyclical process that's going on here between how the TSM manages the provisioning onto the device before it reaches the point of sale, and how from the point of sale, the card reader, the point of sale terminal, facilitates the acquiring and the processing and the authentication, the encryption authentication of the mobile payment data back to the TSM to provide a complete peer-to-peer encrypted communication and mobile payment solution. This diagram, which is a SIM secure element NFC payment ecosystem, explains how in a typical smartphone with a secure element in the SIM card and the mobile application, how the consumer goes to the point of sale terminal and makes a payment. You can see that it's a very complex process when it goes to the payment network, to the issuing bank, and then requires a service provider trusted service TSM, a service provider TSM for the issuing host. The MNO also requires their own TSM, so you can see here that you're actually talking about two different TSMs. And this is really complex. This is the SIM secure element based solution. But if you look at how host card emulation handles it, the host card emulation, or the HCE based NFC payment ecosystem, basically has the secure element managing 3G, 4G connectivity, but it's the mobile app with a token that actually touches the point of sale terminal, and then that it registers with the issuer host. The issuer host still needs a service provider, trusted service manager, and also a token service provider. But the MNO's TSM is not involved here, so you can see that the MNO is completely out of the loop here. Payments performed from a downloadable application in the App Store of a smartphone operating system, which is when it reaches the post terminal. It actually behaves like a card emulation mode, but there's no MNO or third party required. But there are security issues with this type of storage of a payment credential or a token into the open operating system. There is actually a developer's platform for host card emulation. I mentioned this small Texas company called SimplyTap. They've developed this HCE developer platform utilizing their SDK mobile wallet, and they're also utilizing Amazon Web Services. They have this application, which you can see from this diagram here, and it utilizes mobile devices for contactless NFC, building a different type of value-added ecosystem for mobile experiences. For, they can do retail, mass transit, hospitality. SimplyTap is a platform that allows issuers to quickly personalize and deploy cloud-based card-present credentials through a set of APIs that are open and can be used freely. HCE basically emulates a secure element in the cloud. The first diagram shows you that, where this mobile technology emulates a physical smart card using only software. Originally, for provisioning in the cloud, credentials and the applications would be stored and provisioned in a secure element environment in the USIM card by the operator. But by moving the secure element to a remote environment, in this case the cloud, dependency and costs of the secure element or applications, well, that's become removed. So with the secure element in the cloud, applications issuers can provision without the need for third-party involvement, and apps issuers also aren't dependent on the device's secure element owner for storing of the credentials. Instead, you can provision and store them directly into the cloud for use on the smartphone later. Host card emulation is a very interesting new payment technology. However, they do have issues with security. So beefing up of security for host card emulation will require a type of technology that's been used and has significant importance nowadays for Apple, for Google. This is called tokenization. And it's not just tokenization of payment credentials of your credit card. It's actually also of EMV payments. So EMV is very, very critical. EMV means Europay, Visa, MasterCard. So when you're taking payment credentials, you're taking them and tokenizing them. Well, it's important that they be EMV compliant. EMV has come out with a set of standards for the tokenization of the credentials for mobile payment. The importance is cloud issuance. That's the key. To make secure cloud-based mobile payments possible, there has to be digital issuance systems capable of securely storing the credentials in the cloud, issuing them to a mobile app, and then provisioning secure access to those credentials to a trusted application inside the handset of the open operating system. This digital issuance system must manage tokens which are downloaded to the mobile app in lieu of actually a real card data for payment transactions, because it's not a real card. There's no credit card details. It's simply a token that has taken and scrambled the data from the credit card number. So tokenization defined the process of replacing a card account number with a unique string of characters that are restricted in how it can be used. Secure token plans can be assigned for use with a specific device, which is PCI DSS compliant or needs to be, the merchant or the transaction type or channel. The use of a token card PAN account number applied on the top of host card emulation, with the issuer utilizing the token service provider to generate the token delivered to the mobile apps for a transaction is the key. It's the way to go. After the transaction is processed in the payment network, the TSM converts the token back into a PAN so the issuer can process the transaction. The emergence of tokenization for mobile NFC payment smartphones is actually something that's new. Visa, MasterCard, and American Express are working with Apple Pay in order to push the greater security of in the payment industry through this tokenization. They'll all be making money out of this as well. These account numbers are replaced by a digital payment token, as we discussed just a minute ago, for online and mobile transactions. But EMVCo is also standardizing the tokenization across the entire payment industry. Mobile payment community needs to be consistent, secure, and interoperable environment for mobile payments. So this is very critical. As greater security is pushed for, actually. So secured individual payment tokens generated and transferred, that is the goal for this whole tokenization process from EMVCo and also from the three major American credit card companies. Now, with this diagram, let's compare tokenization between Apple and Android. Basically, Apple's method between using the embedded secure element with tokens and Android using KitKat and host card emulation. You see in the iTunes, you submit a token, then you receive the token back, and then it's programmed into the embedded secure element as a token, permanent secure element. That's on the iPhones, but on the Android side, you simply have an issuing a token service provider, and that's sent from the cloud back down to the open operating system in the handset in the mobile app, and so you see. Actually, it's simpler from the bank's perspective, but is it secure? That's the real question. So for an EMV transaction iPhone and the point-of-sale terminal, a cryptogram is actually generated. The transaction security key, and then it's attached to the consumer's personal account number, or the PAN. The cryptogram plus and a 16-digit token are then sent back to the token requester. So you see, there's actually a lot going on here in this tokenization process. Let's talk about Apple iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. Basically, a cool way to make a payment. Basically, this is a process where you simply use Touch ID with your finger at the point of sale. You touch your finger to the point of card reader, and bingo, voila, it just works. The biometrics scans your fingerprint, and the point of sale device knows the token with its security key. It's an authentication process that's split second, and it basically prompts the secure element to send a token and a cryptogram to the merchant. The merchant identifies it, authenticates it, and basically the transaction occurs. It's done in a split second. Once when the token's decrypted and its authentication ensured by the issuer bank, or the transaction is authorized, and bingo, the money has been transferred. It's such a cool way to make a mobile payment Why has it taken so long? I tried to supply in the presentation a video clip, but it didn't work. For HCE, or host card emulation, we're comparing now in this slide the EMV method, which is what Apple Pay uses, versus a cloud-based payment cryptogram. So there are cryptograms sent in the Apple iPhone for mobile payment, as well as the Google Android smartphone for HCE, host card emulation. In a cryptogram in cloud-based payments is created half in the cloud and then the other half when you tap the phone. Otherwise, you could experience latency issues involved with the network connectivity. So this offsets the relay threat with an app security and sensor-rich Android OS. So this is basically explaining the difference between how it's done with a traditional secure element, either Apple Pay or Softcard, and how a cloud-based mobile payment cryptogram occurs. It is a little bit different. In this next diagram, I explain MCX, which is Merchant Client Exchange, versus Apple Pay. As you can see, looking on the right side, we have a bunch of issuing banks and credit card companies, tokenization and security from Visa, and chargeback and fraud management from the banks and from the credit card companies. And of course, that it uses a near-field communications chip, and then Touch ID, security, privacy, and usability from Apple with their Passbook wallet. On the left-hand side, we have this merchant customer exchange, and they have a network of members here, as you can see, and the network that they're using is called Merchant Customer Exchange. That's MCX. The delivery mechanism that they're using for proximity payments, though, is barcode, very ancient and old technology. Starbucks is using it right now, but the chances of them migrating are very, very good very soon. And the application that they're using on the handset is called Currency, which will provide discounts and offers for merchants. Their objective is to remove the service fees charged by the banks and the credit card companies. And they have this wallet funding source as well. So you see, that's the difference between the two. In this next diagram, I show the acceptance for Apple Pay and the non-acceptance for Apple Pay. On the left-hand side, you can see some of the major retail commercial organizations around the United States and around the world using Apple Pay right now. You have also in the middle companies that are using Apple Pay and also alternative payment technologies. Now, on the non-acceptance side, you have Currency, which is the MCX Merchant Client Exchange. You also have the Google Wallet. A lot of people using Google Wallet, and then there's PayPal. So you can see that the companies in the middle, the Petco, Barbies, Whole Foods, Sephora, Walgreens, and Toymart, and Toys R Us, they're actually using both technologies. And so it's an interesting that we have non-acceptance of Apple Pay and we have acceptance of Apple Pay. It's interesting to see the future of this. It's not enough to have software security on a mobile payment smartphone. You need hardware. And so it's a combination of hardware and software security for mobile payment smartphones that will determine the tamper resistance of your mobile payment smartphone. Software-only solutions at the OS level, which means the OS security, the anti-malware virus software, they cannot protect against any software attacks because the OS is flawed itself. The handset firmware and the OS can be modified. They can't be compromised. Hardware attacks require to be countered with hardware protection. The operating system cannot be verified and certified in security, and therefore it cannot be 100% bulletproof. Nothing is 100% security resistant, or not 100% secure. There needs to be a minimizing of this risk, and To do that, you have to isolate critical code. This is what the TEE, the Trusted Execution Environment, does. I worked for the company that invented this technology, which was bought by Gemalto in 2009. I was made the regional sales manager for Greater China in 2010 to promote the Trusted Execution Environment to smartphone, tablets, smart TV, and set-top box manufacturers. The real key here, though, is that online application stores are major targets for malware, Trojans, and all kinds of malicious code activity. And it is very, very important to understand that you should never go and download from a third-party app store that you do not trust. It's really critical. Hence, the whole TEE is required for various types of applications, including host card emulation. There is a growing threat of smartphone hackers and the tools that they use to hack mobile malware or malicious code. These are what you need to know. This diagram shows you exactly what mobile malware is, how the devices get affected, the real dangers of malware to your mobile device, and what's lurking in your smartphone now. The key is if you have an Android smartphone, the chances of you having malware are very, very high right now, especially if you go to third-party app stores. Criminals make lots of money from mobile malware. There's all kinds of schemes. There's premium SMS messaging, there's mobile adware, which is advertising, madware they call it. The hackers like to spy and steal critical information about you and about your finances as well. Bank fraud is on the rise because, well, stealing from banks is very important to hackers because that's their return on investment. There's also something called ransomware. Ransomware is where your handset is infected, and then the only way to remove that is with paying a ransom to somebody to remove it from your device remotely. These are criminals. There are also botnets and spam. There's all kinds of malicious tools used in order to take over your device, to spy on you, to just remove you from your privacy. They are not interested in your privacy. They want to steal whatever they can. This diagram shows examples of software logical attacks and also hardware attacks. On the left side we see that they can exploit security bugs. They using malware and they can exploit sensitive data, exploiting communication flaws. They're exploiting communications flaws such as Bluetooth, SMS, text, SMS messaging, IP. That's how they can infect your device from the software side. Now, from the hardware side, they can access memory in the read-write mode using JTAG in the app's processor. They can also spy. They can spy using keys basically in the clear. They can modify the OS firmware, and so you see, even in the hardware, these exploits can occur. Persistent data is a means that they can use. Mobile payment smartphones need the TEE mobile security, and then basically there are security challenges in the smartphone, tablet, PC environment. Also smart TV, set-top box, this whole device environment. Lots of malware, viruses, privacy, financial fraud, content management. The solution is isolation via the Trusted Execution Environment, which is a framework for mobile device security. It's a layer between the rich OS and the secure element, and protection against malware and viruses. This TEE architecture, basically, it is an isolation architecture where the rich OS with your trusted applications, it takes the applications using global platforms, standardized APIs, and ports them over to a secure environment in the firewall of your mobile apps processor chip. In that firewall of your mobile apps processor chip, ARM has TrustZone. TrustZone allows this TEE mobile device, mobile security software to implement its security provisioning in the chip. And you simply take your rich OS apps and you port them in to perform a particular application. In this case, there are a bunch of different use cases for this. Mobile payment and financial transactions are one, VPNs are another, and of course there's the whole digital rights management for the protection of video content. This is also another use case for the TEE. We've been discussing the TEE, which is the Trusted Execution Environment. I worked for Gemalto and Gemalto's sister company. I was made into the regional sales manager for Taiwan, Hong Kong, and China to all the OEMs and ODMs. Trustonic was the company that Gemalto bought in 2009 and 2010. I was promoted to promote the TEE to the hardware manufacturers, and then Trusted Logic spun out to a three-way JV between ARM, Gemalto, and G&D in 2012 to be called Trustonic. ARM has 40%, Gemalto 30%, and G&D 30%. ARM's TrustZone is a firewall environment, a security feature creating a firewall environment. Trustonic's TEE is simply a security OS for ARM TrustZone, specifically made for ARM TrustZone, although other solutions are now in the process, so there's competition. But basically it's about moving the secure element security from the USIM to a mobile apps processor chip, hence the name Trustonic, or as I like to joke, Trust on the IC. So basically ARM provides the reference design for the TrustZone to be incorporated by system-on-a-chip manufacturers and device OEMs. Trustonic provides a trusted execution environment. This protects against software attacks on the open OS. Basically, that's what the TEE does. As the secure element goes into the cloud, though, using the TEE in the firewall environment of the mobile apps processor chip for Google's host card emulation, it's an interesting and higher level of security. However, most tamper-resistant solutions are still the secure element in the SIM card, but for host card emulation, where the payment credential and the token is still in the open operating system, this does make sense. The TEE does make sense for host card emulation and other applications. Software attacks countered with TEE hardware-based security. You can see how from software logical attacks with hardware-based security, how basically they are blocked. This malware is blocked, and sensitive data cannot be intercepted in the trusted execution environment. Hence, you're really keeping out hackers and their malicious tools from infecting the communication, the mobile payment data when it's processing for a transaction. It's really, really critical. So that's software attacks. Hardware attacks, as you can see from the next slide, hardware attacks countered with TEE, hardware-based security. Basically, the use of hardware-unique key-based cryptography, cryptographic keys when transiting data outside the chip. This is very critical. The use of hardware-based software integrity secure boot is another key element here. And hardware reinforced mechanism for debug port protection. So from the hardware side, the TEE really does supply a very high level of security. Back to my joke, trust on the IC. Trustonic, which was formerly known as Trusted Logic, which is formerly a 100% Gemalto company, Trustonic promotes the TEE, the Trusted Execution Environment, and it's for various types of use cases. Protection of mobile wallet payment, mobile wallet credentials, internet, intranets, VPNs, and also the protection of high-definition streaming video content. It protects the digital rights management for streaming video content on smart TVs and set-top boxes, and of course smartphones and tablet PCs. I theorize that as the secure element goes into the cloud, using the TEE in the firewall of the mobile apps processor chip for Google's host card emulation is a very interesting security solution if you're not going to use the SIM card. In summary, on a mobile payment smartphone, we need tamper-resistant security. That means either the SIM card, the secure element with the SIM card, or any other form factor which provides the security, and or we need a new type of security, a much more robust security from the mobile app's processor chip, because in all honesty it can't really drive the rendering of video content like the mobile app's processor chip can. So what we're looking at is two types of tamper-resistant types of security on the smartphone, either the SIM card or the mobile apps processor chip using the TEE. These are the two mechanisms that will be used for mobile payment from this point on. Well, they have been used for mobile payment, will continue, but they have different applications and different usages. Well, we've gone through software and hardware-based security and why it's important to have a combination of software and hardware security on your mobile device, your smartphone, your tablet, in order to provide mobile payment security, embedded mobile payment security. My conclusion is this: mobile payments need embedded security. The most secure has proven to be the USIM card with the secure element and with a trusted service manager payment platform on a smartphone. This is done by Softcard already in the United States. Now, with the addition of cryptograms and tokenization, which provides an even higher level of security for USIM and cloud-based mobile payment credentials, in this case this would be Apple and or Google payment methods, smartphones are actually, this is actually what's needed for, and what's being utilized for mobile payment on smartphones now, the use of cryptograms and tokenization. The TEE, which is another type of security on your smartphone with the mobile apps processor chip, this trusted execution environment, it can add an additional level, an additional layer of security, especially for host card emulation or for other mobile payment applications that are not normally residing in the SIM card with stored credentials in the secure element. Now, the use of less secure payment technologies, such as that being developed by merchant client customer exchange, I don't think this is going to fly in an age where hackers have very sophisticated tools to jailbreak software. So without software, hardware, and the tamper resistance of hardware, I think there's going to be serious repercussions for any kind of mobile payment platform not using the most secure mechanisms. Finally, trusted computing online websites are needed. We need a whole host of trusted computing websites, and we need consumer privacy rights. Consumers' privacy needs to be respected globally, not just here in the United States. And in this case, the ethics of software people are really in question. How they divert to these kinds of illegal activities, creating this malicious code, Lord knows. But the time is the time to build a United Nations of trusted computing in this software world that we live in is very, very important. Hence, these are my conclusion. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate your listening.